Hi, I'm Chrissy Cordingley, and this is my show, The Flare Up Show, and this special episode is produced in partnership with Clarissa, Burt, and in the Limelight Media. I originally created this show to advocate for myself through chronic illness, but today it's grown into a wellness show that's listened to all over the world. I love to practice well-being for the whole being. So if you're ready to rise, thrive, and elevate your life, stay tuned, enjoy the show, and thanks for listening. Hi, welcome to the Flare Up Show. This show is produced by Clarissa, Burt in the Limelight Media. And today I have Kim Rahir. Kim is a 61-year-old mother of 3 who was diagnosed with MS in 2013 and decided to ignore her doctor's advice and muscle her way back to a happy life, literally. Later that year, she became European champion in Masters Weightlifting in her age and weight category. Her journey inspired her to leave her career in journalism in her 50s and become a health coach for middle-aged women with a big focus on reactivating and rebuilding muscle. Today, she helps women tap into an abundant source of vitality. It works by reactivating and maintaining muscle mass. Thank you, Kim. It's so exciting to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, let's talk about muscle.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I have one burning question. Have you always been into athleticism and muscle building long before, or was it like at that time that you really dug in to that type of lifestyle?
I was always a sports person. My mom took me to mom and child classes when I was like 3. And as a kid, I actually used to be a gymnast. And then when I went to uni, that all sort of went away a little bit. I couldn't find like the right place because I moved to another town, couldn't find a club or a place. And then after a while, I started going to the gym, but it was this style that most women go to the gym where we think we need to achieve a certain kind of look, or we just need to exercise because, everybody says you have to exercise. So there was no real burning purpose or actually a very specific goal. And it's something that I now insist so much also in my work with my clients. You have to be specific. If you do something just saying, oh, I just want to feel better or I just want to look better, you're just going to have a very hard time. And that's what I used to do. It was very unspecific. I liked going to the gym. I'm rather like a gym person. But, there was no sort of purpose, or that was not driven by a specific goal. It was just like, I'm not going to say going through the motions, but it was somewhere at that point. So I wasn't a stranger, let's say, to the gym.
Yes.
But I wasn't really, making use of it like I do today.
Yes, for sure. Definitely. It's interesting that you bring that up about how we look. Myself being now in the early stages of menopause and having metabolic syndrome, PCOS, that kind of hypothyroidism, that kind of thing. There's a time in your life where you sort of switch from the appearance, right? Where you sort of like realize it's not so much about what I look like to other people. It's more about, will I have the range of motion? Will I have the capacity to continue to do the things I want to do in these next stages of my life? So you are passionate about that. So why is muscle so crucial for our health? Why is that focus on strength and mobility so important?
I think it's like a one-stop shop where you can solve a lot of problems, especially like all kinds of menopausal midlife shenanigans, like low energy, achy joints, weight gain, poor sleep. And I sometimes think that poor sleep might even be like the biggest cause of all those menopausal problems because it makes us so tired and exhausted. So we become less active, we become moody, and that it spirals from there. And building muscle is like it's very, very close to a silver bullet. It will not make you, I don't think it cured my MS, even though I'm without treatment now and I've been for 7 years. But it definitely made me stronger, healthier, more confident. with building muscle, you can protect your body from things like a metabolic syndrome, from um, insulin resistance or diabetes too, because the muscle will actually manage your blood sugar. It's just you just can build with your own body. You can build this little engine that's going to take care of your blood sugar. You protect your bones. It's crucial for women. We lose bone density when we turn 35. It's like the max that we have. And if we don't conserve that, if we don't maintain that, it goes downhill from there. So nothing but for having healthy bones. And, so much depends on this, and we're not aware of this. One fall, where you break something because, you have bad balance or because you're weak, it can cost you like years of your life. It will cost you your independence if you're very unlucky. So being strong and muscular will also help with balance, with avoiding falls, keep your bones strong. Metabolic health, I mentioned that, and that's so, so important. It's also great for cardiovascular health.
Yes.
The one that I think sort of saved me and had then all these knock-on effects is that strength training and muscle building will actually improve your mental health. It's just so amazing. After my diagnosis, when I started training, I felt better within a matter of weeks. And I see it with my clients all the time. They come in, most of them work with me because they want to lose weight. Now, I get them started on an exercise program. All they have to do is like 15 minutes a day of a little bit of strength, what they can do. So we assess them, they do what they can do. After 2 weeks, they come back and they say, oh my God, I have so much energy. How's that possible? So the confidence that you gain from that, it carries over into other parts of your life. And I love it because it's simple. There's always genius in simplicity. That's the one thing you can focus on, and you can forget about supplements and potions and herbal teas and like food regimens. If you can just focus on this and have so much bang for your buck, it's something. I just want to shout it from the rooftops. And it's a little bit problematic because as women, we're not raised with that. It's not in our catalog of virtues that we're supposed to aspire to. So that's my mission.
Tell women see how strong they are. Absolutely. There was something you said about, and I just lost my train of thought for a second. Oh, it'll come back. It'll come back. The bone density thing is humongous, obviously, especially as we get a bit older. Oh, what was it? Sorry, it'll come back at some point. I'll get on something and then I'll be like, oh, there it is. So, what if you have never done any strength? I remembered what it was. It's interesting how when we get an idea in our heads, we think we have to go from 0 to 100. So you had MS when you started doing, the focus strength training. Some people with autoimmune disease get into it and they work really hard, but they really push their limits and they'll think that they have to do like massive amounts in an hour. And then they wonder why they are not gaining more energy when everybody says you're going to have more energy. It's sort of like excess stress. So this 15 minutes and the simplicity, that is the beauty of what you do. It doesn't have to be so much. It's more about the consistency, I would imagine at that point, right?
Absolutely. And showing up every day is the one thing that you need to do. You don't need to, do hour-long workouts or, when it comes to weight control, hours of cardio. So many women think they have to take up running, when their joints are not really up for it, and they don't have the muscular strength to support their joints. And that's actually the sort of the trick. I don't want to call it a trick, but it's a bit of a trick with the 15 minutes a day. Because in the end, yes, you want to do some kind of strength training. You want to, look after your muscles. What exactly you do is not that important. It's not as important as actually doing it. So this 15 minutes a day is more like a behavioral lever because
Mhm.
anybody can find 15 minutes in their day. So it's like getting the foot in the door of behavior change. Because if you've never done anything like this, it's going to be like a big change. And if I tell you, drive to the gym, find parking, find a locker, get changed, lift for 45 minutes and come back, it's never going to happen. Or it might happen once or twice, but it's just too much of an obstacle, too big of a change. So the 15 minutes is actually sort of my, you know, foot in the door of behavior change, where you sort of can walk through it, do it without too much inner resistance and also outer resistance, because the people around you, they're going to say, what's going on? You want to build muscle now? You're crazy. You don't need that. And if you say, just going to do 15 minutes every morning and you leave me alone, it's easier to go through with that. And then doing that every day, that's what will create the change. That's what will create the energy. And you're totally right. Because we have access to everything these days. So when we think about strength training, we might Google this, and then we might see, I don't know, Instagram influencers who train 4 hours a day and they look like from outer space. And we think, oh my God, I can never do this. Or if I want something, then I need to do that. No way. And I'm never going to even try, because we see all these things. Whereas if we can sort of focus on what we can do now, and then do it in small portions every day, we'll have tremendous results.
I love that. What should someone be most aware of if they've never done any strength training before? What should they expect and what should they look for?
They definitely want someone with a good eye, a professional, assess where they are at, their strength levels, and also their mobility levels. Because sometimes we have to start with something that I call an activation, because our brain is so ruthless. If we do not use certain muscle groups for a long time, it will kind of put them offline.
Mhm.
So we need to reactivate the connection between the brain, the central nervous system, and that muscle at the periphery. And um, the problem is, if we're not aware of this, it's not something that we feel. It's not, you don't feel that, oh, I cannot contract my glute muscles. I can't contract my butt muscles. You're going to do something that you think is that, but it's actually not going to be working. And that's where you can get hurt if you try to execute movements that you see in a YouTube video,
Mhm.
but your muscles are not properly connected, or like don't receive quality signal from the central nervous system. Then you will do a different type of move, and then you can get hurt. So you
Mhm.
can start anywhere. It can be so gentle. It could be just like pelvic tilts, or maybe wall push-ups, very simple things. You want to really have someone look at you and tell you, okay, this is where I would start, um, because this is where you are at. And if we have to activate your muscles first, that's not a problem. It takes like a few weeks, and then you can move on to bigger things. But for to avoid frustration, discouragement, and injury, you want someone to help you find the right level of challenge that you need.
Yes, I love that. Get professional help. Also, I was wondering, I was thinking about this when you said this activation, and also at the beginning when you talked about doing sort of the exercise, the routines, but not really being present in the moment with the muscle that you're actively training, or that there is something to the mind connection too, about like if you're working out, it's more effective if you're actually paying attention to the place that you're exerting resistance to. Isn't there something to that? Like it's not just about like doing squats in front of the TV and not really paying attention isn't as effective as doing squats while really feeling and leaning into the burn, right? There's something to that, right?
Absolutely. And that's because the quality of the contraction of the muscle depends on the quality of the signal from the nervous system.
Ah.
So actually, some people talk about training to failure, and the muscular fiber virtually never fails. It's not the muscle that can't contract anymore. It's the central nervous system that can't send the signal rapidly enough anymore, and sort of slows down or shuts down, says, no, I can't do this anymore. And of course, our brain is very conservative. So sometimes it will also say, I can't do this anymore when you still can. So, some people think that we're starting to shut off when we're somewhere around 20 or 30% of what we can do, because, the brain wants to protect us. But the best way really to know what's going on and to have a quality contraction and really make it count is, yes, to have full focus on what you're doing, because you will also have problems with proper form if you're watching TV while you're doing squats. You might be doing something that feels like a squat, but might not be a squat at all.
Yeah, and we got to be careful, because I mean, this is why people pull their backs tying their shoes, because they're not paying attention, and just, twisting the wrong way can sometimes make a difference, especially if you're not super mobile anymore, right? So if the brain is kind of a jerk, like a little bit of a lazy jerk, and we have all these outside influences, right? Which you mentioned, sometimes community likes it better when we hold the status quo and don't try to make too many changes. And all these things are about, like, we have to look a certain way in order to engage in some of these activities. How do we stay motivated? How do we stay motivated on what we want, and making ourselves, or not making ourselves, but inspiring or encouraging ourselves to continue even when it gets tough?
Yeah. Motivation is one of my favorite pet peeves, actually, because action comes before motivation. So motivation is not something that you need to do something.
Yeah.
If you could spend a lifetime waiting for this, motivation to come over you like an epiphany, it might never happen. You don't know that. What you can control is, if you start doing something, you can sort of generate that motivation because you're doing something. So you're getting feedback from your body, from the world around you. You realize that you can achieve things, that you can do things. When it comes to strength training, you realize that you can overcome resistance, because that's what you do. It's also called resistance training.
Mm-hmm.
And that positive feedback gives you the confidence that you think, oh, I can do things. So if I could do this thing, maybe I can do the next thing. That's where motivation is created. And if you are in a very bad place, like have no drive, no energy, really, no wish to do anything, you start with something extremely small. You do something extremely small. You can, in that place, you want to wait for motivation to happen. It's not coming. It's not coming. It's not, something that happens. What you do, you start with something extremely small. And in my work with women who start the first week, all we do is a 5-minute action every day, nothing else. So that could be journaling, that could be breathing, that could be walking around the block. It could be anything. It could be taking a vitamin pill or whatever, but something where you take 5 minutes in a day to focus on you and your health. You do it. And that way you get the ball rolling. And that's where motivation comes from. Never sit back and wait for your mindset to change, or for motivation to come over you, because that's not how it works.
It's true. It's very true. 80% of our thoughts come from what we physically experience. So the brain won't change until we start doing things differently. I remember if I could share, when my autoimmune was at its worst and I was pretty much disabled for a point there, my doctor talked to me about 4 minutes a day of some type of movement, just 4 minutes. And I was lucky, I was in a position where I could afford a trainer, and I found a good kinesiologist that could design a good 4 minute while still understanding my body's limitations at that time. And that was the start, right? Like, that's the start to now being able to hike 20-kilometer trails and do different things with my body. But it was just in those 4 minutes a day that made a big, 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 big difference. It was that little bit. The other part is the joy. the other part is if you can tie some joy to what you're doing, like to really enjoy it, like, oh, I hate doing this, I hate doing burpees. Well, maybe don't do those. Maybe maybe go outside and climb a couple logs, like a couple steps, right? If you enjoy the outdoors, it's really the joy piece, because then it'll be something you look forward to more. And that was why I did hiking. I'm like, I love nature. So maybe if I get outside, I'll be more active. And that was a big driver to, like, it's not so much about the exercise. Yes, I love feeling my body strong on those trails, but it's also the joy of being natural in those moments too. Do you find that helps with
Yes.
some people, that finding the joy in the things that they enjoy doing?
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, that you want to do something that you really enjoy because it will make sure that you keep doing it. If, if you hate it, chances are the first situation where, something else is asking for your attention, you're going to say, oh, I have to do this other thing first because,
Creative
now
procrastination.
yeah, the strength training part, many women will say, oh, I don't like this, because it's just, culturally, we're not really conditioned to want to do this or to like this. And this is also why we start with very short sequences. And I make it very functional. So it's not about doing hundreds of bicep curls, because when in your everyday life do you do a movement that looks like a bicep curl? Doesn't exist, not really. So when it's functional and it feels maybe like, vaguely similar to, I don't know, pushing a car or getting out down on the floor to play with your grandkids, then you can discover the joy in those movements, because they are not sort of like self-serving. They actually help you be better, feel better in your everyday life, in your activities of daily living. And many women realize that late, but not too late, that actually, yeah, I need to be in shape if I want to play with my grandkids. I don't want to just sit on the sidelines and watch them running around. I want to be there. I want to be able to lift them up. And actually, that's what we do with strength training, because our world has become so mechanized and automated that we do not do these things anymore that we are actually built and optimized to do. We evolved to push and pull and carry and do things like this. So we emulate that with the training, but then we can transfer it right away to what we do in our everyday lives. And you will feel after a few weeks that everything feels better, feels easier. And when you give it this kind of sense, then you can also find joy in something that you thought you would never want to do.
Yes. Yes. When I, a number of years ago, I adopted a dog, a larger dog, a husky, and of course they love to pull because they're sled dogs. And I had some muscle degeneration in my shoulders. So whenever he pulled, I would end up with migraines and terrible headaches. And I thought, oh, I can't walk this dog. And I'm like, no, you can. We just have to prepare yourself more. So it was just a lesson in, okay, this works, this works. This is what gives me some movement here. And now it's not an issue. Like I can pull and yank on anything. It's not an issue. But I think that's what you mean, right? Like it's about that functional, it's about that mobility. It's not about going, oh, I guess I'll never do that again. Maybe not. Maybe there's a way, and maybe it's a lot simpler than you think it needs to be.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
want the exercises to be relevant, like,
Hmm.
for your everyday life, because that will also help with motivation. When you see how all of a sudden you can do those things that you love, and you can walk that dog, that will help you then, want to do more of this so you can do more of the other. Yeah, that's how it
Yes.
works.
Yes. What is one of your biggest tips or life hacks for people that want to get into shape and have more movement?
Um, Start now. I know that we're very tempted to sit back or maybe Google, like how to get rid of belly fat, how to lose weight, how to reverse menopause symptoms. And we do a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, a lot of contemplating. And the one question that you need to ask yourself, and there's only one question ever, in any life situation that you want to ask yourself is, what can I do now? That's it. So I want to get in shape. What can I do now? And really, literally, what can I do? Maybe I haven't moved in a long time and I feel rusty. Can I go for a short walk? If I can, then that's what you want to do. Only ever ask yourself that and then do that one thing, because it will always lead to another thing. And that's how you start. Stop thinking, stop wondering also, why do I feel this way? What happened? Why am I here? What have I done I shouldn't have? Or who's to blame? No, forget all that. What can I do now? And find that thing and do it, and you'll be surprised how much drive and energy that's going to give you.
I love that. When you were saying, Googling belly fat and menopause, I was like, have you seen my Pinterest board? I feel like you're calling me out. Just teasing. Sort of. I really, really appreciate this information. And what was it like for you to sort of get this diagnosis, especially, multiple sclerosis, where it could affect your mobility, like to go from there to seeing how strong you were able to become? What has that been like for you?
Well, the first days and weeks were absolutely terrifying. And it was also, I was diagnosed in winter. I think it was December or December, maybe. Yeah, December. So my memory of those times is like darkness. And it was dark in my soul too, because you don't know where you're going. You have no idea. And you could become, could be paralyzed. And I was told by a doctor that you could also go blind, which was like information I hadn't really asked for. Thank you.
Yes.
And then I realized if I kept thinking about the future and where I was going, I would just be so terrified that I wouldn't be living. I would just be thinking about, oh my God, what's coming, what's coming. And my kids were small at the time, 3 kids. And I thought, no, I'm just going to do what I can do today. Just focus on today. It really taught me to focus on the moment. And I know we're told this all the time, focus on the now. And I don't think many people really practice that, take the time to practice that just a little bit every day. And for me, it was what saved me, because I could just enjoy every day with my kids and do what I wanted to do, not scaring myself out of my wits with the future. And that also gave me the courage to say, oh, yes, I want to be physically strong. I want to, because this with autoimmune diseases, you feel like your body is betraying you. You think, oh my God, why is it doing this? This doesn't make any sense. So this desire to become strong was also a way of wanting to rely on my body again, wanting to trust it again. And I just focused on what I could do on that particular day, and I did that. And I'm still living like this today, because it's the best way to have, also on a mental level, the best possible quality of life, not scare yourself with the future, because there's nothing we can do about it. And we're putting ourselves in a situation in our head that doesn't exist. We're making things up and thinking about the future. It's not there. It's, all we have is now. And when you can embrace that, you're going to, be able to do things that you never thought you could.
Thank you. Thank you. Where can people find you, and how can they work with you?
So if you want to see what I do, you can follow me on the socials with my name, Kim Rahir. I share lots of thoughts and tips, stuff that you can do to get started, to feel better, a bit about my weightlifting adventures. And then you can go to my website, which is kimrahir.com. And on there, you can actually take a free assessment where you can find out, that starting point that we were talking about. Where are you at? How strong are you? How functional are you actually in your everyday life? And then when you fill that out, I'll send you some ideas and pointers on what to do next and how to get started.
Amazing. Thank you. Is there anything else you would like the audience to know before we sign off for today?
I just want especially every woman, from your 40s onwards. I know that there's this thought that can creep in, like this was it, like the best times are behind me. I don't feel like myself again right now, or I don't recognize myself in the mirror. And I was like in a very dark place where I didn't even know if I was going to be able to walk. And I know, and like in my bones, there's always something that you can do. It's never too late. There's always a small thing that you can do right now. And if you feel like really low and have this impression that, nothing good is ever going to happen again, just let go of that. Focus on now. Ask yourself this question: what can I do now? And then do that, because it never is too late.
I love that. Those are beautiful words. Thank you so much for your vulnerability and for sharing so much of your heart and your passion. I hope everyone is really inspired to know that there's something still really beautiful and energetic within them, and that today's the day to go find that and find some joy in that. So thank you so much for your inspiration.
Yes, thank you for having me.